Welcome. I'm Lisa, and I'll be your host tonight. Just as a reminder, tonight's webinar is recorded, and want to let you know that we will be giving you information through the chat mode, but we'd like you to put in your questions throughout the presentation, throughout the webinar in the Q&A section. We'll do our absolute best to answer your questions, but please follow along on our blog and stay connected if you want to get more information and to continue to work with us and hear more and more as we go on. It is with great pleasure and excitement that I introduce and congratulate Dr. Lenka Schulze, who recently received her doctorate. This presentation on the alchemy of consciousness is presented by the Wellness Institute in Naples, Florida. And welcome, Lenka.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for hosting the program today. And like always, so much fun things to talk about. Welcome, everybody. Again, I'm so grateful that you found an hour to spend with us. And you could do whatever you want, and you choose to be here to invest in you. And I'm very grateful. So we will be talking about alchemy and consciousness. Couple words that are thrown out there, but making them really simplified. It's alchemy is the word for science, and consciousness is really another word for awareness. So we'll be learning how to become the scientists of our own awareness, if that makes sense. But like always, we would like everyone to kind of get more settled in, bring a cup of tea, just get comfortable in your chair, and hopefully you have your candle ready. If not, I know Brandon does for us. So we will start with just spending a few moments to focus our intention and take a deep breath. Focus your gaze on the flame. Your eyes are the windows of your soul. Your soul is now seeing the light and bringing awareness to the light within you that you hold so deeply. By acknowledging the light, your light is growing and expanding with every breath you take. Bring awareness to your breath with your inhales and exhales. Bring awareness to your chair or the sofa you're sitting on. Ground yourself firmly to this present moment. Breathe and let go. Let go of the distracting thoughts, things to do, and let go. See the light growing and growing as you are completely surrounded by the pillar of light as we share our own light and love in today's class. And so it is. Thank you. I was trying to find some kind of an example how to bring the consciousness, or again, awareness, same thing, into today's class that could be a little bit more grounding. And I thought about an example of, again, apartment building or condo, where you have all these different levels to live on. But let's just say that you live on the first floor. And how aware are you of what's going on? Your apartment is on the first floor. You certainly have the ability to take the elevator ride with all the other people who live in that building. So you just living on the first floor, missing all the other floors with all the other people. And not just that, maybe you are very talkative and maybe you do have some time to talk and find out a few things, but still, if you live on the 10th floor, not only that you have much more abilities to spend time with the people in the elevator and talk to them and find out things about them, become more aware of life beyond just yours. When you open the window of your apartment building, you will have more to see. You have a broader perspective of the world. And if you have the curious mind, if you are a very aware person and you looking through the window or out the window, you start seeing things. So for example, me living in Europe, I remember when I opened up my window, I was always staring out the window. I would see the trees in the forests. I saw the trees in the forest in Poland. Then I seen the apartment buildings and houses of all my classmates. I have seen my aunt who just lived down the street. I have seen when people went to bed. I have seen the neighbors walking the dog. I have seen what cars they drove and what time. And you could see so much more when you have the broader perspective and when you have the curious mind. And you could see even like if they have a balcony and they had their laundry, what laundry they were washing. I mean, you could become very, very aware of people's lives and people's just overall way of being. And so if you have that intrigued mindset, your life becomes richer. You can think about it like, well, that's nosy. Well, yes, if that mindset is nosy, but if you're just curious and you just like to watch, just being observant, that's when you become more aware, and your consciousness is that much more aware. So that's a one point of view of how you can look at how consciousness can be expanding. So a lot of people call it rising consciousness. I like to say expanding because it really is like that. It's not this way, it's that way, right? So there's so much more benefits, especially to building intuition, to be very aware. You don't have to live in a high rise to be aware, but I was just giving you the example when you become much more attuned to the environments around you and much more curious on everything, because you will see patterns of things, patterns of health, patterns of education, pattern of your family, pattern of your friends. You will see that there is just some a dance that you seeing now more clearly. So when you see things, when, like I said, it's not just what you see, but what feelings or what thought process go through you when you see things, right? And that's what holds that key of what level of consciousness you hold. So do you have the consciousness of scarcity? Do you have the consciousness of unity? So when you're looking at things, when you look at out the window, do you see a beautiful things? Do you see abundance of things? Or do you see a danger? Like what goes through your mind when you're looking at things? I will show you where you are within yourself. There's also questions that will help you to realize where you are today as your, chemistry comes down to like the alchemy, when you become your own alchemist. Where are you at this present moment? And be very, very honest with yourself. So questions like, do you see everyone equal? Do you see everybody having the same opportunities? Do you live from your heart, or do you live more from your mind? What feelings and thoughts do you hold about people and humanity? What does it mean to you to be in power? What does power mean to you? What would that be? Define it for yourself. And if you have it or you want it, what would you do with it? What do you do with it if you have it or you would have it? And if any of the power would mean status, money, or knowledge, again, what would you do with it? That will give you the idea of what level of consciousness you hold within your awareness. So we brought before to the forefront the map of consciousness. and just gonna go back to that. So hopefully you guys had it from previous class. If not, Brandon will bring that back and forth kind of when we're going to talk about that. But, you know, again, it was developed by Dr. Hawkins, and his premise was kind of that this particular map will help you to improve life in many aspects of your life. How did he came up with it? Just kind of quick reminder. His theory was that energy, right? Thoughts and feelings are energies, and they vibrate. The heavy thoughts and feelings, like shames and guilt, will makes us more denser. Happy and joyful energy is light and airy. So I know you can see why we want to hold, for example, brand new baby, because it's light and airy. It doesn't have the programs of how I'm going to pay the bills and how I'm going to get to the bus station. Baby doesn't have that. So it's very light and very pure, versus someone around you who have very negative and worrying kind of energy, and it's very draining. So just these two complete opposites gives you the understanding when you look at the map of consciousness, what I'm talking about. When people holding negative thoughts, again, they don't even have to say it. If they hold it within their aura, they also going to feel heavy. And if, again, we kind of first starting with ourselves. So when we having these feelings, it would be really beneficial to honestly look at ourselves first before we start examining other people. When I'm going to start just overall on the bottom, the guilt and the shame. So start with the shame first. It's really simple, honestly. If you do something that you think is bad, you start creating energy of shame, period. If it's having a piece of cake that you shouldn't have, or you have a cigarette, or the second glass of wine, or sexual affair, whatever you think, and here's the key thing, is bad, you're creating the energy of shame. The second scenario of shame is early programming. Again, you remember that's all about the programs. So when the early life experiences leads to shame, such as abuse, you know, somebody constantly make you feel bad, you start creating that kind of a shame, like, I don't want to be here, you know, I'm just only causing trouble to other people. And you kind of start having that whole shameful, being anything you say or do, you kind of feel very shamed about it, even you don't know why. It's because, again, things were said or done around you or for you or to you that had created the deep program. The consequences of that kind of early program is very low self-esteem. And remember, the low self-esteem is very important of building intuition, because intuition needs to have that I know that I know, the steam behind self. You know, it's that whole, you know who you are. And the class that we had before, know yourself, was talking about that whole self-esteem. So here I am bringing in again something for you to look at if there's any kind of a program that you can delete in your life. So a lot of times people who are in that vibrational energy, they appear shy. But again, people who are shy are very draining. Because if someone is around you who's shy, and you have the person who is like an empath and trying to, like, you know, have the pep talk, it's very exhausting. So when we are labeling our children, oh, Johnny's just shy, please stop. Because maybe Johnny just doesn't want to talk to you. So try not to label people or situations to just make yourself comfortable. Johnny doesn't want to talk to you, so stop calling him shy. It's just has nothing to do with you and nothing to do with him. It's just one of those things. Children are really honest, and they do not need to have that label, because that label will be carrying on forever. And that's nothing more than excuse then, right? Because we hiding behind something that people labeled us with and early on. But again, Being shy is very draining, just really is. When we go into also the energy of shame, you find out when you start thinking more deeply that people who are perfectionists and they wanted everything perfect, especially about themselves, they are also very judgmental. And they are very often very rigidly minded, and they are not very tolerant. And again, think about that, because when somebody like that start making comments about you, they put you in kind of like shame, right? I can't believe you're wearing that. Or why did you say that to me? So again, deflection, right? You remember we talked about deflection and how what they say, it's really the mirror, what they feel inside. So just be aware of that. And what would be the solution to that deep program? Very simple. Change the feelings of good and bad. That's just really it. It's not good or bad, it just is. Be very aware of your thoughts, very aware, but more than anything, step out of the polarized world and stop calling something bad and something good. Because if it's bad, remember, you're immediately creating that energy of shame. But if it's not bad, it just is, then you are not spiraling down. Why you would say, well, there is a bad situation. Again, it's all perception. When you go see a movie with your friends and you see the same movie, every single person will have a different point of view. Some people say, oh my God, it was the worst movie ever. And the other person would say, I loved it. So again, you could see it's all about perception. The energy of the next one, energy of guilt. That is a great tool in our society to manipulate and punish. Many people struggle with guilt their whole life. It's a very deep program, and it goes really hand in hand with shame. They really kind of like siblings, sisters, brothers. It is the belief system they were programmed early on, honestly. It's hiding a lot in the word should and shouldn't. So watch that. It's like when somebody's trying to make you feel guilty, sometimes it's very obvious, but sometimes we making ourselves even in dancing with that program when we say should, we shouldn't. So for example, it creeps up very easily in our programming, but it comes from our surroundings, from our family, from schools, from friends. And these examples of it be something like, you can't do that. What are people going to think? That's not nice. You need to do this. Uncle Joe expects you at the party. You should come. If you don't do that, you don't love me. You don't respect me. You give me heartburn. You see what you're doing to me? Comments like that are very powerful. And especially when you hear that early on in your life. Sometimes it's your teachers, but often enough it's our parents or grandparents or siblings, or you fill the blanks. So remember, it's nothing more than a program. We can easily delete it, but how? Sometimes the perception of understanding that no one can make you feel guilty. You allow it. You are the only one who can make yourself feel guilty. Think about that. Again, it's nothing more than programming. So I often think about that. It's a great business to be in the guilt and shame. How so? Sin, salvation, it's a great business. You create something bad and somebody's out there to save you. So it is still a very good manipulation tool, a business opportunity for churches, organized religion. When you do something bad and you tell the priest, you pay some money and you feel better and you go home. Or in the modern age, you can go talk to the therapist, especially the ones who will agree with you. You give them some money, you kind of cleared your chest, everything was making you heavy. You just let it out on the table and you go home. So again, it's a great business. However, do you really feel better? I don't know, because someone took your money and your power to believe in yourself. So again, yes, it's easy way out. Somebody is giving you the opportunity, but there's other ways to do it. It really is. Talking about it with a dear friend and letting them a heads up, hey, I have something heavy on my shoulders. Can you meet me for a cup of coffee? Obviously, don't abuse that, but that's a great way. Journaling, going and singing or dancing or do physical activity, but realizing what really that is, because we had a conversation with Brandon earlier about this. And do you need to know what is actually making you feel heavy, that guilt and shame? I obviously don't have the truth. I have just my own BS belief system. I believe it's very beneficial if you can actually call it, because if you don't call it, it will come back and come back and come back in a different outfits, but the feeling's going to be the same. But if you can call it out, then you're going to be more aware of it. So that will be a very easy way for you to stop that program from becoming so powerful in your beingness. So the next heavy, and you could see again, the numbers are getting higher, but it's grief. I'm not going to go through every single one, but the reason why I'm going to bring in grief is that I believe we're all grieving right now, especially for the last 3 years. We as a humanity going through a lot. And grief is something that we will all experience in one time or another, losing a loved one or so on. However, just midlife crisis, you grieving your youth, you grieving the beautiful wrinkleless face, or you grieving the opportunities that you didn't take. All of this is part of grieving. And if you don't realize it, they become very heavy and they turn to resentment and they turn to anger. So you have to be very aware of your feelings. So the sadness can easily turn down into anger. So when you are, going through grieving potentially a job, or again, I was talking about the experiences, but if you have this kind of a program placed in you early on and you have tremendous losses in the early on of your life, you are very prone to that program. So be very careful, because it will easily spiral you down into kind of like depressive kind of a mode. Constantly see everything gloomy and worst case scenarios, and you constantly feel kind of like in that vibration of darkness, because you had a very challenging childhood with potentially a lot of grieving. And if you didn't grieve properly, that residue could carry on. So anything tiny happens in your life, it would be like, oh, here we go again. It's just like you expecting everything to go bad, and everything will be the worst case scenario because you are constantly in that vibrational frequency. But like you see, it still has a better or stronger energy than apathy, because apathy has no feelings. So when you are grieving, you at least have feelings. So it's something to really watch for and be, like, again, the map is really helpful in that. And also I found that when people are in that vibrational frequency of grieving, that the whole regret and tragic and everything is like that, they also use a lot of times, I can't. Everything is, I can't. And they have all the reasons why. But honestly, Dr. Hawkins, it kind of expresses it as well, is it I can, or is it I won't? So catch yourself. because you can do anything, but do you really want to, right? So if you say, I want, what is behind it, really? Again, these are really subtle questions that will lead you to huge transmutations or transformations. And it leads you, actually, that question will lead you to fear. And that's the next one over. Why? Well, because you are so, let's just say, I can't dance. Well, you really don't want to dance. Why you don't want to dance? Maybe because you don't want to be humiliated, because you don't know what you're doing and you think people will be laughing at you. So it actually comes from what? Fear. So now we go into a fear. Lisa, do you have any questions so far? I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, coming back on. One question was coming up on looking at, you're saying grieving properly, and so, or doing, I won't versus I can't. When you build on that, of just, can you go into a little more of like, what is grieving properly, or what, I mean, just a brief something of, sitting and doing, I'm thinking about it myself. I'm sitting here wallowing versus, trying to get out of the mud.
Yeah, I wish that we could have a manual for grieving, because it's so individual. And I honestly, I don't know how it's properly. It's just only allowing the process to go through, and be okay to cry, be okay to be upset, be okay to be sad, and stop putting the clown face on like everything's okay. Because that is probably the hardest thing, specifically with our generation right now, that you go in between the youth and going to the next level, right? The transition. It's not easy. And again, you really truly are grieving. And if you trying to just hold on to the youth, right? And you holding on to the 80s music, right? The 80s hair and the flawless skin, you live in an illusion. You are stopping the beautiful process. It's almost like you want to have the noon beating sun all day long. Everything has its cycle. You are born as a baby, you are a teenager, then you are in the prime age, and then you have that beautiful stage of wisdom and compassion to share with the youth. And every single stage has a value. And if you don't see the value in yourself in this present moment, because it's present, you're missing out, because there's two thieves in your life, two. One, it's called the past, and one, it's called the future. And if you don't understand that, you are really truly robbing yourself from the presence that you get every single second. So the past, you are hoping that it will come back, because again, the 80s hair, and you have a great time, and you're constantly talking about what you have done, and and how great you were and all that, and you're only talking about the past, and you want to live in that, and you want to somehow prolong it, you want to control it, which that's where we're going next. And then the future, you are so fearful even considering that, because you want to know exactly what you're going into. And this is exactly the question. Well, can you tell me how the grief looks like? And can you give me manual for it? No, just dive in, just be the pioneer in your own self. And when you go through it, you can tell then the value comes with these experiences, because you can tell your children or your neighbors or whoever, like, I have a dear friend, and she became a widow, and very young. And I said, wow, this is really hard, because you don't have anyone to ask. All your friends are still, married, and you guys are still so young. She goes, yes, I'm the first one. I have no one to ask. But you see what a value she's going to be experiencing, because she's going to be the first one people are going to call when they're going to go through it. So until we realize that the physical body and the artificial, this body thing, it's just not that important. Maybe the grieving becomes more easily, because that grieving is really from within. It's a beautiful process, like anything else, because you're allowing that to happen, and it enriches your life, and it's also making you more powerful, because guess what, you're going to endure it.
No, that sounds good. So I think, it is, I think you're saying be in the moment and work through
Yes.
versus, this should be back to the should be this way, I should do.
Yep. Those key words, if people can just remember the key words, the should. If somebody says you should go, should I go? All of that is the answer is nope, because you want to go or you don't want to go. It's simple. Should is it's tangled with a lot of underlying programs. So catch it. So now we're going to go into a fear. And so you could see fear has more energy, but look, next to it is an anxiety. And then the process is withdrawal, and then frightening. And so you could see that there's a couple of different ways people deal with it. Anxiety, I mean, my gosh, a lot of people going through that. I'll jump to that later, but let's just go look at what this fear is. Fear is nothing more than control. When you are fearful, you're trying to control your environment. You're trying to control the life, the circumstances. If, again, I always bring children into it, but because I'm dealing with a lot of parents, and they obviously love their children, and they want to make sure the children are safe, children are secure. And why are they doing that? It's because of the parents' fear. Think about that, right? We don't even realize how we controlling the environment. You don't sit down with your cup of tea until everything is under control. All the fires are down, everything's under control, then I can relax. So the control is the fear. Like you have to know everybody is safe so you can feel like you can finally relax. But it's not the right way of doing it, because you really cannot control anything outside of yourself. It's just a complete illusion. It's a false sense of security. And this whole world is based on false sense of security. You have insurances up to wazoo. You have the alarm system. You have the cameras. Everything's keeping you safe. Really? Think about that. But how does fear sneak into our life? Well, we are fearing of enemies. We fear death. We are fearing disease. We fear the old age. We fear rejection. This is a new one. Fear also comes very elevated and holistic and green movement, because you will get feared plastic, GMO, pollution, the music, the movies, the stock market, all of the things you constantly are trying to control it, right? As long as I drink out of glass and I'm not going to use that on my face, and it's just like you micromanaging. I'm not saying not being aware, but what mindset is going through you when you are looking for things, if it's shopping or if you are looking at your healthcare or how, your wellness, or if you go into the gym, again, are you controlling your calories intake, or you just going there because it feels good? Like, what goes through your mind? All of these little tiny insights will give you the bigger picture. Fear is the favorite official tool for organizations, for companies, marketplace. You just have to realize that also obsessive behaviors is part of fear. And, we are constantly fearing our relationships. Just catch that, like it's all around us. So again, very, very, very deep program. What I found really funny is, number one, supposedly, fear is public speaking. So not death. So you are fearing to give eulogy versus being dead? So it's kind of like funny. It's like people get this straight. Why would you be afraid to give eulogy? That gives you to the next level. Why am I scared of public speaking? If it's really, I'm not speaking for everyone, obviously, but I'm just in general, you know, people are afraid of standing in the public and speaking. Well, again, underneath all that is the humiliation. Again, making fun of, you know, not knowing what to say. Again, judgment, right? All of that. But it's the being vulnerable versus being prideful, because the humble person cannot be humiliated because it has authentic self-esteem. The pride, the very pride people that out there, you know, they pretending that they know it all, or they you know, they have some kind of a inflated ego about whatever they're doing. Yes, they are very fearful because they are afraid of being exposed, of being phony, of not being real. So something to think about. People who are preoccupied of what other people think, again, they just becoming more heavier. The people who don't really care, who cares what other people think of me, right? It's very liberating because there's nothing weighing you down. You just kind of like flying away. Who cares? The next one is desire. Desire, craving. The next to it is enslavement. So a lot more energy. Desire is good because it motivates us, right? So it gets us more out of the couch versus grieving, right? Or being guilty and shameful. It's kind of like, so now you're like, okay, I want to make things happen. I'm desiring to change my life, and I jump out of bed and, you know, getting out there and doing or wanting things. But we have to be very careful because that could turn into addiction. What do you really desire? And for what reason? Because we still very much in the first three chakras, and that's really where the polarized world is, in that first three chakras. And so if you look at the colors, you could also see that the red / a little bit of the yellow, right? So we are right there in the first three chakras of the human experience. So very much into satisfying the human elements. Like, let's say you want a fame, or you want money, or you want approval. Make sure that if you are in that part of your life, that it doesn't create a purpose, because this is not where purpose in life is. This is just a desire to create something, you know, start experiencing things. The desire to want something, to get something, also lead us to frustration and anger, because sometimes we don't get what we want. We desire things, but we don't get it. So we become very frustrated and angry. So this is, again, when you look at that paper, much more energy, right? You can be in aggression very quickly. So this energy of anger is suppressed in our society often. And it's because it is kind of almost like immoral, unpleasant, and it looks like a moral failure, almost like a spiritual setback if people are showing or experiencing anger. So they pretending that they are not angry, or they fooling themselves. They are not, just because they are taught from early beginning not to show it. Again, when you showed anger, most likely you were spiraled down into guilt and shame because anger was not allowed. So you just put it in the drawer, like I talked about it before. You just like shoveled it somewhere else, but not somewhere visible that people can see it on you, right? So understanding that anger is nothing more than emotion, right? It's something that is very natural. We all experience it. And that's not something to be shameful of, but we want to make sure that the anger doesn't control us, that we can actually get some kind of a grip on that without escaping and without some withdrawing somewhere, and transcending this anger. No, we have to transmute it. That's the difference. We actually have to sit in it, with it, to know what makes us angry, where's it coming from, and then bring it more up. And that's the alchemy of it. That's where we become our own scientists of our own emotions. So anger is and can be very transformational. Why is that? Because anger can go two different ways. Anger can destroy or create. So when you are in a destructive mode of anger, you're spiraling down. Okay, that's where it takes you. But if you are, again, having the desire and you're not getting what you want, you jump in and you're like, I want it. I want to see a change. And I always think about it with Martin Luther King, where he was so upset about the injustice, what was happening in the world, that he wanted to have a change. So he stood there, upset and frustrated, and he had a dream. So out of that frustration and the desire and all that, he created this movement. So think about how anger can actually fuel you if you understand it and if you can work with it versus against it. Very, very powerful tool, because look how much energy it carries, so much more than guilt and shame. You can't really do that much with it. So you have to kind of get yourself up there. So it is when you are around people who are angry, and especially when it's out of their character, they're not chronically angry. Because if you have a chronic anger, it could become dangerous, right? It could turn to hate. So you have to watch for that. But if you just genuinely kind of like angry and then you deal with it and then you let it go, again, let it go, right? You're not holding on to anything. You're not holding on into some hot potatoes constantly. You just bring it up, look at it, deal with it, and let it go. So if chronic anger is not recognized, it gets buried into our physical bodies, and it could show up as psychosomatic illnesses and migraines, arthritis, and hypertension, to name just a few of those. So again, catch it, because when nothing is wrong with you, when you go to the doctor's office, but you still feel like that, sometimes that's what it is. And I'm sorry, Brandon, you were right on it. That's where I was going next, is that, anger is, look at this. If this doesn't motivate you, if you're angry, you lose half of your muscle mass. Because why I'm saying this? Well, students in martial arts are very aware of that anger is sign of weakness, and you become very vulnerable, which you pretty much given up to your opponent right there. You cannot show anger chronically, because you look at this, you are losing your muscle mass. And I come across clients like that, and they go to the gym all the time and they still are not buffed and they don't understand that. So again, catch that. And the second one we have is when anger is really binding, really. And it's making us very heavy. So it's, if you're angry with someone else, it's binding you to that person. So angry person is energetically heavy. So again, if they don't show the anger, but you can feel the anger and you feel how they weighing you down, just know that not always you have to see it or witness that to feel it. And that's where the intuition comes in. It's all about the feelings. So we are done with the first three chakras here. And this is where shift happens. Brandon, the shift happens. Do you have that one? If not, that's okay. Okay, so shift happens in here. So you could see that the arrows a little bit change. And we're gonna go now into energy above 200. And the reason why I'm saying the shift happens here is because you're literally now understanding things differently. When you step out of, okay, I understand that all of these feelings are natural. They do not have to take control over me. I understand how to, I don't even like the word control, because you remember control is fear, right? But how to work with them. How can I be my own alchemist and realize where I am feeling this way? What's mine, what's not yours? It's like, think about that. How many times, we talked about this in previous classes, you feel fine and all of a sudden you feel angry, or you feel shameful, and it's not even yours. So now, knowing yourself, which was the previous class, and becoming your alchemist, and owning your stuff, you're fully responsible for all of it. This is where, here we go, shift happens. You become empowered in all of these feelings, because when you go through all of these feelings, you need to realize we all have them, and you're not staying just in one. It's not like, oh, in this point of my life, I am in here. No. These feelings constantly changes throughout the day. Okay, so just know that we sometimes all feel the part of grieving, and we all feel sad and feeling anxiety and so on and so forth. The key is to recognize it and don't dwell in it, don't sit in it. Okay, so shift happens. The energy of above 200 is able to see and feel the world differently. Okay, it's just effortless. You're not even trying to anymore. You literally are now in the apartment building in the 11th floor, and your perception is changing. You don't see the world as literal anymore. You almost see it as every single thing happens is opportunity. It's not the challenges anymore. The challenges becomes the opportunity. The obstacles becomes the steps for the next level. You're just shifting your consciousness completely. So with that, it's the courage, right? The courage is the step of empowerment. You are ready. You are so ready. You have the power within you to take the courage. This is the energy of accomplishment and determination. Completely different vibration. Courage represents willingness to try new things, explore life, learn new skills. And then this is the hint. Have an open mind. You finally cracked open. You're like, oh my gosh, what else is there? How much I was sleeping, how long? You are so hungry now for life, because everything's becoming the new adventure. The mind is now open. You almost like shifting from the logical, must control it, into, whoa, what's here? And this energy, where you also become more giving to the society versus taking away. The energy of below that is like draining our society. The courage is giving back. Okay, so you're giving back now. You are active participant in it. This is the result of positive feedback. You're not looking for validation anymore. This is the really important part. You're not looking for validation anymore. Nothing and no one needs to validate you, because the validation is around you in a source of productivity. You see things tangibly. If it's money in the bank, or your healthy body, or your positive attitude, or healthy relationships, something is changing or already have changed in your environment. But again, becoming aware of it, because if you're not aware of it, you still think you are somewhere like you have been 20 years ago, right? Somewhere dwelling in some shame and guilt. And maybe you're not anymore. Look around. Look around. Who's there? What's there? Where do you live? What do you eat? What do you drive? Like all of this will determine where you are and where you want to be, because these are the product of your hard work, if that makes sense. And I know I'm still talking something tangible, but that kind of helps you today to see where you're going. But when you're going higher up, that's not even relevant anymore. But more than anything, you feel so good about yourself. You really do, because you're realizing, you know what, I got this. any and all situation. I got it at this point. I can figure it out. That is really empowering. The next step, we're going into neutrality. And you heard me talking about neutrality previous classes. So here we kind of like almost meeting at this very important point where neutrality comes with trust. It's very similar to, like I just said, I got this, right? So the trust, you are kind of almost like surrendering. The people who surrender into the circumstances, right? They are not necessarily worry about the outcome. It will be whatever it will be. They completely trust the process. Statements like, well, if I don't get this job, that's okay, it will be another. They're not holding on to any physical situation because they know it could be taken away. If they think in the controlling this situation, they operating from fear. They trust in something bigger than themselves. People do not get intimidated by fear anymore. They don't get, they don't play that game with, you must do this in order to get that. They don't play that. They are very much, very much aware of this. Very hard to employ people like that, just because nothing and nobody can influence them. If they want to work there with you or for your company, it's because it feels good and they have such a respect for themselves. If you don't have that, they'll leave you. That you have to create an environment where they are free to stay or free to leave. And it's kind of almost like mirroring you. So, you know, you're not going to attract these kind of employees who are working there because they like you, they like your message, they like your vision. They're not going to work for a paycheck, those kind of people. As we are climbing up to energy of acceptance, this comes with forgiveness and wisdom. Okay, so acceptance, you can't accept something if you are not holding the compassion to forgive. So these are some high voltage energies. I mean, you could see it. They're going way up there, right? So this is a huge transformations happening. The energy of acceptance literally holds the power. I mean, if you can really truly forgive from the compassionate heart because you truly understand, you carry that wisdom because you've been there, done that, that's very powerful. And it's people who vibrate on that level, they're not really concerned about the right or wrong. They're not here to judge. They put you in some kind of a category. None of that it doesn't exist in this realm at all. It's very, very expansive. And the people, even if you did wrong in your eyes, they don't see you that way. That's not important to them. They see you on the soul deep level. The level of surrendering and accepting. And also at this level, you are capable of self-healing. Because none of these, remember this whole dis-ease, it's on the lower vibrations. So you are now able to heal. Why? Because none of these flaws are relevant because you don't hold on to any of it. You're not worrying about looking perfect, not having your aches and pains are just part of the journey of, remember that body become the divine tool for divination. So for intuition, sorry. So you see just the world differently. You see your body differently. And the language of intuition gets very clear as we hold the acceptance. It's like and I'm going to be very bold with you on this one, because you're going to go like, oh, Mary's not talking to me. Okay. Mother is angry. Okay. John is dying of cancer. Okay. Certain laws or politics took power. Okay. So it's just, it doesn't move you. It doesn't take your peace away. You understand, you have compassion, you have wisdom. It doesn't mean that you really don't care. It's just that you choose not to dwell in those vibrational frequencies any longer. You hold much higher perspective of awareness. Your consciousness is completely on a different level. So yes, people not go, what's wrong with this, with her? Something's wrong with her. Okay, so you might gonna come across that way. So the next one, of course, everybody wants to hear this one, the energy of love. That's not the normal love. It is not the romantic one. This is the love I'm talking about, is the permanent love. It's the love that doesn't fluctuate. It doesn't change. It's always forgiving, always nurturing, always supportive. It's the love from your deep, deep heart. It holds no agendas. It holds no position whatsoever. There's no more barriers of any of it. So many relationships, unfortunately, today are not based in that. And I have many conversations on this level with people, and people are still confused about this. And if you are confused, you have to answer yourself this question. If you love someone so deeply, I'm going to stop for a second. I know that this subject is going a little bit over. So if you need to run, this will be taped and it will be aired. But if you can stay with us a little bit longer, I'm almost done, but I do not want to cut this short. So going back into this deep question, if you truly, truly love someone deeply, and you're saying unconditionally, can you let them go if they choose to go? They'll ask you, I want to leave. I want to leave this relationship. I want to pursue something or someone. And I want to go. So with that question, you have to ask deeply inside of your heart, will you be able to do that? Will you be able, with your deepest, deepest, compassionate, loving heart, let them go without feeling angry, abandoned, fearful, and all the other things? Can you hold that vibration? If the answer is no, that's okay. That's okay. But just know that is a very high level of love. It's the unconditional love, where we know it is there forever. But, saying that, a lot of people don't understand that. You know who did that? Siddhartha, Buddha. He had a relationship. He had a wife and a child, and he left. He left these human binding contracts, right? He had a contract with his wife, and he had been father, and so on and so forth, to pursue his own purpose, enlightenment. So you could see that it had happened in our life. So something to think about. And again, so many people talking about love, but that kind of love I'm talking about, 0.4% of population is able to hold that frequency of love. So please don't feel like you are the only one who doesn't hold it. No, not at all. And I don't know, I don't really like these number games, but I'm just copying something that Dr. Hawkins wrote in his book. So something to think about. But have you ever experienced it? Absolutely. I believe yes. How so? Well, these are those tiny little moments in life that they just kind of come and go. And many of us, let's say that we take care of our children, right? And it's these sleepless, endless nights where they have earaches and they have stomach aches, and then they cry in the middle of the night, and then you still have to go to work during the day, and you have all these other responsibilities. But even though you are exhausted, you tired, you barely can keep your head up, you go in the middle of the night and you pick up that baby and you hold it. That moment is the unconditional love, where you put your needs aside and you there for that another human being unconditionally. Next one would be the other opposite of elderly parent, somebody you're taking care of day in, day out for months and years, or maybe not even years, but night after night, and they are demanding and they are needy, and it is taking everything out of you. But you know what? Somehow you show up. You show up because the deep, deep love from within So catch those moments, because those are the unconditional ones. You know who is around us constantly with unconditional love? Of course, babies I talked about, but pets. Now these researchers found out that by having the pets around, they bring in these vibration of love, which is what wagging tail, supposedly it's vibrating in 500, and it prolongs life over 10 years. This is what the researchers saying. So get a pet. And you maybe already have one. And I also would like to bring in this kind of aha moment with person who holds this vibration of this unconditional love, can bring people up, not just one, but 750,000 people can be lifted up by one person who can hold that love just for a few minutes, let's say. So something to really go for, because it's not doing, okay? It's just you carrying that love within you can exude that out. And then I'm going to go very quickly to the top, which was the joy and peace and enlightenment. And they go with these feelings of pure consciousness, oneness, bliss, peace. All of those are like a Teflon. It's a Teflon, you know, when you're cooking eggs on Teflon, how they slide versus the Velcro. And those are the sticky shame, guilt, grief, fear. They are sticking like molasses, and that's why we just get stuck in there. But these really light feelings, they come to us like, think about it like a butterfly. Oh, butterfly. And you look up, and those few seconds, it's actually your lighter. Or the rainbow. And my favorite, it's dolphins. If you know, we're living in Florida, I never get tired of it, because the minute the dolphin jumps up, you tapping into one of the highest consciousness, because dolphins are really high consciousness, and you just got right there, that split moment, that bliss right there. So if you live in this near the ocean and you have that, hold on to it, hold on to that jumping dolphin in your heart, because that's how we create the neuroplasticity. More of these moments we create with the sunshine, the butterflies, with the smile of the baby. When we can hold on to them consciously, when we bring them in, hold on to them, we bring in that more and more and more into our aura. That makes us lighter and lighter. And we look for these moments, they will show up. So again, when we are in the high rise on the 11th floor, what are we looking for? What are we looking for? Are we looking for the rainbows? Or are we looking for the garbage man, right? So again, it's that what are you holding within you will be presented out. So that's kind of where I would like to end our class. But I do have something in the end, but I want to see if anybody has any questions.
Thank you. I do know if anyone does need to leave, as you said, that we are running a tad over. But one question that came up was just looking at, like you were saying, the bouncing of up and down, because I think a lot of it comes out, you know, imposter syndrome right now is being said that, and, you know, in versus just sort of acceptance, you know, of being able to go to this, that this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm working towards.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, so a couple people have brought up anxiety, and so feeling that anxiety, and I mean, I think it just comes from the lower side, but being able to bounce up a little bit to get
Mm-hmm.
to that anxiety, or what do you think as you build that or feel it?
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions within that, but start with the anxiety. Anxiety, it's like pressure cooker, and anxiety feels like there's so much energy that needs to come out, right? So, and anxiety is also, like you could see it on that on the map of consciousness, it's associated with fear. So fearing something that is not even here, something in the future, something that we don't even know how to control it. Again, control, because we don't know how to control it, we're creating that anxiety within us because we don't know. But once we take the lid off of the pressure cooker and let the steam come out, you're not going to feel that anxiety. It's almost like, let's jump in, whatever that is. If you were saying, feeling fake, like, okay, well, I want to do this, but I feel like I'm being fake about it. Well, you're feeling fake because you were worried. Again, you get worried, control. Just do it. Again, do you really care what other people say about it? Do you really care what feedback you get out of it? You cannot control what other people think of you. You can't control if they're going to like you or hate you. It's up to them. So once you kind of almost soothe yourself with that, talk yourself through it, there's not that much to have anxiety over. You cannot control the future. You really can. You can control the present moment. So knowing that, what is the first step? Just worry about, if I worry, here's the word, just take the first step. Just do it. Just change something in your environment also helps tremendously. If you're waking up to this particular ringtone, change it. If you're waking up on the left side, go to the right side. If you're taking a shower in the morning, do it in the evening. Do something different. Go buy yourself completely new clothes. Go different route. Change something in your environment because it will change. Sign up for some class. Don't go to things you used to do. That will shift things around. That will shift also the anxiety as well. That would be my advice. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, I think that's a great answer. So very helpful. Thank you.
Sure. So if there's no more questions, is there one more? No?
People are saying thank you. It's validating and appreciate
Okay.
it.
So I will end with one of my favorite quotes. Don't know, honestly, there's so many people said that before me. So I'm not really sure who to give this source to, but watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. So this is something that if you can print this out, put it next to you and look at it, this will be literally the step by step for the next step towards the enlightenment, towards the intuitive, because this whole class is about intuition, right? This will guide you into clear understanding of yourself, of the surroundings, of your relationships, because you first need to be aware of all of those things that you've seen on the screen. So thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you spending the hour with us. We will have a next class. We'll keep you posted on our newsletters. We have tomorrow meditation that Brandon's hosting here in Naples. And we're going to be starting Tai Chi / Qigong class. So we're super excited about that. Anyway, thank you, and have a wonderful day, actually evening.
Thank you.